Welcome to Tac Chat number 10, episode 10. I'm Dan, and I figured I would film a quick Tac Chat here. It's probably only going to be 20-25 minutes long unless I really get going, but I doubt it. There's kind of a disconnect for me down here. I'm in my little makeshift studio with my dojo over there to the left, and I've got a grappling dummy I could look at. You know, he's tapped me a couple times. It's kind of hard to watch myself and look in this little camera here that I'm used to having the FBI watch me through instead of me talking into. I'm used to talking to live people, or at least having someone live around, but that's okay. I'm gonna work on it. I know I've been half-assed in these podcasts, and I haven't done the best job I can. I've got a left-wing graphic artist friend who kind of abandoned me because of my conspiracy theories, with that said, it's I've had like some Facebook friends drop me left and right. They're Marxist leftists, and I am unapologetically white. I'm not a racist, and I'm not going to virtue signal to prove that I'm not a racist. I grew up in an urban multicultural ghetto in Cleveland, not one of the suburbs. So most of the people I see out here screaming the most, they've never had any violence leveled at them by anybody. Where I grew up, I got beat up on, jumped, shot at by people of all color while I was growing up. And I don't hold nothing against any of those racists. I came to and they were doing racist shit. Because they were trying to jump me, back then it was because I was white. I don't give a fuck about that, man. I came to the conclusion that people from every race can be assholes. What I don't like is every 4 years we have the ugliness of our past thrown up in our face by opportunistic pieces of shit, slugs, slime, parasites. Those who are supposed to be our leaders but are being our rulers instead. We got three kinds of people that I see. We got people who are free thinkers, and they usually call us conspiracy theorists. Conspiracies exist. Look them up. They're not all theories, okay? I got into I thought I didn't say anything wrong at all. I just said I don't vote. I don't vote. I want nothing to do with, these cult practices of wearing a mask. And this girl who I've known for a while, and hun, you know who you are if you're watching this. I've given you advice. I've helped you. Little stuff in the past, nothing big. But, I got called a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, a xenophobe. Oh, and I got small testicles. Whenever you make a logical argument and give facts, they really know how to put together a counter argument back at you, because you really made your point when you said all that stuff to me. And that would bring me to some of the things that you probably don't have in your life. You need to take a strong look at your own actions on why you don't have those things, okay? Because natural law has been negatively affecting you. It has been responding to your actions. And I'm going to talk about natural law because I talk about it in my book. I talk about it briefly in my book. I didn't have to change a lot of things in my book. There were some things I needed to absolutely needed to change. So, message loud and clear. One of the things that I've done in my life is I've been a teacher my whole life. I've taught martial arts. I've taught defensive tactics. I taught interpersonal communications, even though you might not be able to tell. I'm usually better in person than I am doing this stuff. But, as an instructor or teacher, you have to also at one time have at least been a student, and a good student. And you probably should still be a student. And I think part of being a good student is, you got to be able to admit when you're wrong. And don't just be wrong to try to be fake humble. I get it. But if you made a mistake, I know as an instructor, as a teacher, sometimes it's the student that needs to wipe the shit off their collars and pull their head out of their ass. And, I think it takes self-reflection and introspection to be able to say, hey, yeah, I was wrong. And just like I think it takes healthy ego to get angry and say, no, I'm not wrong. So, hun, you know who I'm talking to as far as, our Facebook debate's concerned. I wasn't wrong. You're wrong. Completely wrong. And then to lightweight threaten me that there's going to be consequences, okay, lead the rush. That's all I'll say on that. We can argue numbers all day long. Everyone's going to try to quantify numbers. Here's a question that I have, and this is just a legit question. This is the most hotly contested sickness or illness that we've seen in history. Why? I've seen things that they've proven that were fake with crisis actors, with ICUs and stuff like that. There's all this purposeful disinformation being put out about this. Now, let's say this is the most legit virus and pandemic ever. Then shame on you fucking politicians for politicizing something to make people not take it seriously. And how are we supposed to take it? I'm not going to even get into it, man. It's like arguing over the low-hanging fruit. It's not even the low-hanging fruit. It's the grounded fruit that's been rotting in the sun for 3 days. We've got people who are free thinkers who you're going to call conspiracy theorists. Then we've got you people who do nothing but worship at the idol or at the altar. You worship at the altar of the donkey and the altar of the elephant, and you filter all your opinions through your political affiliations because your team has to win. And to you guys, to these people that are out there, winning is all it's about. It's all it's about. They think this whole thing has just been, it's all because of it's just bad politics. It's just dirty politics. It couldn't possibly be any other conspiracies. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm willing to use abductive reasoning, which means I'm willing to be wrong right from the beginning, okay? Adductive reasoning is what most people use. They'll say they are right until you prove them wrong. I'm willing to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But if I'm not wrong, we got bad shit coming down the pike. Bad shit coming down the pike. And then we have, and those people who run all their information, they run all their opinions through the idols, through their gods, through their political gods, their religious political gods. They're too ego entrenched to admit they're wrong. They're never going to admit they're wrong. You get the yeah buts from them, the yeah buts. Everything after the yeah but needs to just, don't even say it no more. Don't even say it. If after the yeah but, shut up. Because the yeah but means you're acknowledging the veracity of what has been said. There doesn't have to be a yeah but. Then just think about it. And getting back to what I was talking about, hun, you need to really look personally on what you have done in your life to not have things you may have wanted. What was the negative consequential effects of your actions under natural law for you to be in a position you're in and not have some of the things you want in life? Because I've been there. I have been there. So you guys are too ego entrenched. The third group, which is the largest group, which is the group that us conspiracy theorists are trying to actually get to, are the people who are media entranced. So you got the ego entrenched and you got the media entranced. It's the media entranced we're trying to hopefully wake up. There's a lot of information you could find out there that isn't ran by the government. Right now, the news medias are nothing but propaganda machines and extensions of the government. The idea of America was awesome. We're the freest country in the world, but they're trying to take that away. And I'd be okay with certain things, but why the lies? There's something a little more nefarious going on, or otherwise there wouldn't be all this deception. There's way too much disinformation being put out there and propaganda. And if you can't see that, I don't know what else to tell you. Look, this is different than other years. I've had friends that work at hospitals all over the country, and ICUs have been empty. People were complaining about hospitals being at 30% capacity. Now all of a sudden they're showing video that could be shot anywhere by crisis actors. Maybe I'm wrong, but here's my question. Such a hotly debated, talked about issue, okay? And we've got these things we walk around with. They are high-tech 4G cameras, computers. You know, there's more technology on this than there was on the first mission, you know, to the moon. Where is the videos of ERs where someone just passed out, man, this shit is legit, someone just passed out? They take video of everything. You know what, man, I was here in the ER and I just watched someone just pass out. Where is the video of this? I don't need to see ICU fake videos. You know, you guys are the videos I am seeing of these are showing empty emergency rooms, man. So what are people supposed to think? I decided to buy, I might as well show these. I decided to get these probably about a month ago when I was out of town. I seen them at the gas station. So, you know, even though we've got socialist communists wanting us to, basically statist communists wanting us to wear masks, capitalists are doing their job. Let's open this up. Let's take a look at this here. Put that there. So here's a mask. Now, I'm just going to show this mask. I don't know if you can see it real well, but that's like a zipper. It's a zipper mask. Mouth zippered shut. What do you suppose the symbology of this is supposed to be? You know, what's the symbology of this telling you? Oh, here's a camouflage one for us tactical guys. It's bullshit. You're taking away people's constitutional rights. So, I talked about natural law, and I want to just say natural law, I was explaining it to a friend once, and when I was explaining natural law to a friend, a lot of times when you're talking, you're teaching about something, teaching it and teaching it correctly is the important thing, helps you to better internalize it yourself. Now, I've seen the patterns of natural law in my life since probably 1998. I had heard of karma. And when I first brought up natural law to this guy, you know, he was like, "Oh, that's law of the jungle. That's you know, survival of the fittest." And I swear to God, I had to smile, you know, because no, it's not anything to do with Darwinian theory. I had to smile to myself because I was told, I had heard from a very good natural law teacher, that was in fact what I was going to be told, and I just had to explain to him that natural law is the consequential effects on your actions. It's the karmic law of attraction. It's karma. It's the consequential effects drawn to you by your actions. Are your actions moral and right to do, or are they immoral and wrong to do? And once I started to explain it to him that way, and that natural law is something that you can't see, but it's working around you at all times. And you could be living according to it and not even know what natural law is, and you're going to have stuff going good for you. And if you're not living according to it, and you could have no idea what it is, you're going to have stuff jumping your way. I've had that happen. And I think maybe, you know, throughout my different jobs as an order follower, and I was a Marine during the first Gulf War. I worked in a prison for 5 years, a closed maximum security prison. And that's another thing I came to realize, you know, I've kind of embraced real anarchy, not this violent crap you see out there, but just real freedom, because anarchy simply means no masters, no slaves, no rulers, no subjects. I kind of really, really dig that, especially with what we got going on in the world now. Yeah, I would like to see that. But I realized in a real anarchist society, you wouldn't even have prisons. And don't make no mistake about this. When I was working in there, I seen people with true psychopathy. I'd look into their eyes, and their eyes were soulless. They were scary individuals. Some very dangerous individuals I worked around. And I started to get pretty apathetic and jaded myself. You know, they got this saying to be careful if you fight monsters, because, You don't have to become a monster yourself. If you stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss will stare back. And, I had a saying, we all had a saying in the prison, to just be careful, because people tend to assimilate their environment. And when you assimilate your environment, when you're around a bunch of psychopaths, that means you're going to turn into a psychopath if you're not careful. But yeah, in an anarchist environment, there would not even be a need for prisons. Because if you were a child molester, a murderer, a rapist, you'd get euthanized. You're out of the village. You're done in this life. If you were, if you had consensual paid sex with a prostitute, if you did drugs or sold drugs and it was consensual and nobody was being hurt under natural law, there's no victims. There'd be no prison. I know that sounds, some people are like, oh my God, no, that's how I feel. Which is why when I did my work as a cop, I was a part-time cop for a lot of years, a seasonal. I didn't write tickets. I'm not trying to virtue signal on being a good cop or being a bad cop or anything like that, but I wasn't into the ticket writing. I never was. Cops are in a dark place. And I think they need help rising from darkness, especially now more than ever. There's a reason why the average lifespan of a cop's like 59 years old. And there's no mental health for anybody in that line of work. There's no right training for anybody in that line of work. When I decided to take that oath, I took it upon myself as a martial artist and just taking that job seriously. When I got into it, I took it upon myself to say, hey, you know what? I've given up my constitutional right to be unfit. And I kept myself in shape. Never had to pepper spray anybody. Never had to hit anybody with a baton. Carrying all that shit just messed my back up to begin with. Every time I did go hands-on, I was able to control them without hurting them. Should every cop be a high-level martial artist that can control somebody else? I don't know. I don't even think I'm that high level of a martial artist. But when you're dealing with drunks, it's not that hard to detain them, and that's mostly what I dealt with. But yeah, they need help rising from darkness. I think they're talking about they want to defund all these police departments. Okay, then don't take me to jail when I defend myself. There's a couple of sacred principles in natural law. The first one's the principle of non-aggression. That means you do not aggress upon anyone else. And the second one is self-defense. And down here in my little dojo, I would like to be covering self-defense techniques and not talking about this nonsense that's going on in our world, but who isn't affected by it? Have no choice but to talk about it. Because within natural law, there are 7 hermetic principles, one of them being mentalism. The universe is mental. All is mental. What that means is anything that manifests in this 3D reality had to first be mental. It had to first be a thought, an idea. And there's puppeteers in this world who are mitigating the effects of natural law. They aren't suffering the negative consequences of their behavior because their behavior is nothing but thoughts. Nothing but thoughts. Very bad thoughts. But they have order followers carry out those thoughts. Or they have, hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. My cat was meowing. So, what was I saying? Oh, so they have very bad thoughts, but it's the order followers who are taking the actions. Okay, because it's actions that natural law responds to. It's actions that the karmic law of attraction. Okay, you can't prove it exists. Just like I can't show you a picture of gravity and say, hey, here's gravity, but I can show you gravity's very observable effects. So I just want to make sure anyone watching this who understands natural law, I know what I'm talking about with it, and I'm willing to not have any of it in my book. I only had to change a little bit to begin with, because I think the book's going to stand on its own, and I'll get into my book. I just want to make it clear I'm not so ego entrenched in anything where I'm going to do anything to hurt other people's great work. And you have my word on that. But with my book, let me get into what my book's going to be about. My book's going to be about some of the unhealthy coping mechanisms, some of the, addictions, bad habits that I developed. And, addiction is a terrible thing because I understand completely the shame spiral that goes with it. And I understand, I think the evilness of the weaponization of shame, and people try to weaponize it against me. That's okay. I don't let that happen no more. I was able to pull myself and rise from that darkness. And I'm hoping I can help others rise from that darkness. And if there's anything that I actually knew knowledge-wise that's going on in the government where I can actually put it out there and help right now, I would, but I don't have any of that. All I can tell you is the order followers, I'll get back to my book thing in a minute. I want to get on this while I'm still thinking about it. The order followers you have to worry about now are not going to be the police. I guarantee you they're not. They're going to be doctors. Okay? I'm going to let people in on a little secret here. And all my former fellow order followers, all my fellow former cops out there struggling, you guys know this is true. Cops half the time don't even trust other cops. If I'm speeding down the street and I have a cop pull out behind me or whatever, the first thing that would come to my mind 10 years ago is shit. I wouldn't walk by a doctor wearing a lab coat and be like, oh shit, it's a doctor. Uh-oh, it's a doctor. No one thinks like that. We all trust doctors. I've seen it firsthand. Doctors will do exactly what they're paid to do, exactly what they're told to do, because they're pieces of shit just like anyone else can be. They're bought and paid for. All right? And I'm not talking about researchers who are doctors and they research and they adjust a pie chart, fix some numbers, fix some graphs, to give it to somebody who's got an agenda who will keep giving them their funding, to keep their funding coming in, okay? Because those doctors will take that funding and over on the side, they'll be working on some real science that maybe someday in the future might actually help humanity in some way. I'm not saying it's ethical, but I'm not talking about those guys just trying to keep their funding. What they do is wrong, but I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about doctors who do exactly what they're told to say, and because they've got initials behind their names, people are going to take them at face value. Okay? I've watched doctors lie their asses off. So to say I wasn't triggered by all this nonsense, I'd be lying. Yeah, this has been triggering for me, man. But get back to my book. Even with an addiction, they try to make addictions like they try to make them more complicated than they are. Well, you got process addictions and you got chemical addictions, and really both are both. Because if you've got a process addiction, there's a chemical component to it, because the activity itself is what releases dopamine and all these other cocktails of chemicals in your brain, and in that regard, it becomes a chemical addiction also. Chemical ingestion for a chemical addiction is going to have some type of ceremony or activity involved around it, okay? For instance, when I used to have bonfires, which is an activity, I would end up having a bonfire anytime I drank. So if I was going to, if alcoholism was a problem, well, that bonfire would kind of help that problem, because as soon as I had it, I need to have a beer, right? So both are both. And I understand the shame spiral. I understand the bargaining, Hey, I'll just do it once. And before you know it, you're like, say for smoking, you're back at a full pack a day. I was going to just smoke 3 cigarettes a day, just 3 today. And before you know it, you're at a pack and a half a day again. I know the bargaining. I know the shame. When you have that lack of control, and you just become more and more shamed. I know the self-isolation, the self-loathing involved in it. I can tell you how I rose out of it, and I had to rise out of it on my own. I could not rise out of it with the help of mental health people around here who had lied their fucking asses off. They are part of the order following cult, and they're the ones you got to be the most scared of right now. You want to start talking about other type of any type of law enforcement reform? Don't take guys' jobs away from them if they go and seek help. Let's make a society where police aren't needed. I know it sounds utopian, but why? And I've heard this elsewhere. I'm parroting this, but I absolutely agree with it. Why do we trust others to govern us if we think people need to be governed? Well, people need to be governed by who? By other people? Don't be surprised before this is all over. And this is something else I'd like to talk about on this show besides everything that I've talked about. In 1997, I had a Bigfoot encounter. on what I really believe was a very scary Bigfoot encounter. And I was in the Allegheny Mountains. I like to talk about that kind of stuff. And I have a lady friend who was with me who can totally substantiate that. I'd like to talk about the floating orb that came at me, in the mountains of West Virginia when I was a 15, 16-year-old kid. I have two friends that could substantiate that story. I'd like to talk about aliens. I think they exist. As far as religion's concerned, I don't be surprised if sometimes you see me wearing a Mjolnir. I'm wearing a Mjolnir on one day, and the very next day I'm maybe wearing a crucifix. Because I follow more of a primordial tradition that honors the similarities in all creational ideas. In creationalism, they represent the same thing. Hope, courage. They represent the same thing to me. So, my beliefs, you don't have to worry about what my beliefs are. What I do believe is in living according to natural law as much as I possibly can, because when I haven't done it, I've been pretty messed up. And the reason I got into, what I just talked about with spiritualism and religion is because I experienced too many coincidental happenings and too many, synchronistic events in my life the last 3-4 years, even leading up to doing this podcast right now, with animal totems and numerology and tarot and different things along those just too many different things. God exists. A very real higher power has been at work in my life to bring me to this exact point, to help however I can. I'm not doing this book to make money. My last book, I gave more books away than I sold. I'm not hurting for money. I'm not rich, but I'm not hurting for money. If I can make some money off this, I want to make a little extra. I don't think we're going to have regular currency for very long. I'm already at 26 minutes in. I'm pretty sure with the way they're trying to ruin the American dollar right now, I know people who are making more money not working than they were working. So I'm pretty sure money's not going to be what we think it is too much longer. But I can't donate and give it if I don't have it, so if I do make a little bit, so be it. But that's not my primary thing with this. At this point in time in history, now wouldn't be the time for a retired guy who's kind of okay. I could have just stayed quiet and just be okay, But these fuckers they scared my kids. You made me have to quit jujitsu, which bothers me. If there's a cult I belong to, it's the only cult I belong to still. The cult of jujitsu. Man, I couldn't do jujitsu. You don't know how therapeutic that is. And you're just playing these games, and I don't see the deaths. I'm not seeing them. People aren't dropping dead. There's no video footage of it. I think you're lying. And you can call me an idiot, and I hope I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. This is something I want to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and they are saving all kinds of lives doing this. And this has nothing to do with nothing else, and I'm just a conspiracy theorist. Sorry if I'm a little untrusting. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about on here. Yeah, something I put into the book also, and this might sound a little like, I don't know, woo-woo spiritual. I don't want it to sound like that, but think about what type of energy or vibratory energy are we putting out into the collective, okay? What are we putting out into the collective that tells the universe we don't need people anymore? How much time do we spend on social media? And I got a conspiracy theory about social media too, but a lot of my theories can have whole shows, devoted to them. Social media, all these different online distractions. You go someplace to be around friends and you're in your phone. What type of vibratory energy are we sending out into the universe that says, I don't need people anymore? And then we find ourselves in positions where from social media we went to social distancing very easily. So I think about that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm asking the question. Could that be it? So I'm going to leave you with this final thing. Remember the movie Lost Boys? In certain vampire lore, the vampire has to ask permission to come inside. And the mother of the star of the Lost Boys, and I forgot her name, but she gestured for him to come in, and he's like, you have to ask me in. Oh, okay, so he needs permission to step through that threshold. He's powerful enough to just break the house down, get in, suck her blood, do whatever the hell he wants, and get out of there. But maybe, just maybe, he's trying to mitigate the effects of natural law, and maybe that's what the allegory of that is. He's been given permission to come in. She had to give her consent. And I feel like everything going on in the world, we are collectively given our consent. So I'm going to say something 4 times, and maybe we need to put a different thought process out into the collective. There's 4 words. I'm going to say it 4 times. I do not consent. I do not consent. I do not consent. I do not consent. Put a hashtag on that and throw that up. Let's get that going out into the collective, and don't consent. Anything I have to do, I'm going to do under duress. There's a lot of bad stuff coming up, I feel. I really do, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping I can do a lot more, a lot better podcasts, have guests on here, and actually have conversations with people. I've got some interesting friends. I've got some interesting friends indeed, and I'd love to get them on here to do shows. I don't know how often I'm going to be doing podcasts. I'd like to get to a point where I'm doing them every week and I'm putting stuff out there. Better art, better graphics, PowerPoints, all that. The first few I put up, I don't think I was being as authentic as I could be. I shouldn't even have put them up, to be honest. But I figured, hey, put them up. Let's see how much better I get as I go. I got some work to do. That's okay. But this book is being done right. It's being done professional. It's being done right. And I hope it can help. And, with that being said, if I'm off on anything with what I just said about natural law, from my understanding, if you know more about it, man, you throw me a hint, reach out to me in any way. I won't. I don't need to have that in the book, or very much of it in the book at all, in any bit. I understand that any action that does not bring harm to another sentient creature, another sentient being, is not against natural law. Natural law's only got, there's only 7 transgressions against natural law. Don't murder. I didn't say don't kill, because some people need killing. Don't murder. Don't assault. Don't rape. Don't steal. Don't trespass. Don't coerce. Don't lie. And I think what's going on in the world is a huge, giant coercion. Okay? People have to use their gut and sense. Something doesn't seem right. I don't care who you're voting for or rooting for to be your slave master in chief. Up until this year, I always considered everyone Demopublicans and Republicrats. My failures, my triumphs, they were on me. They weren't on some guy who's in office for 4 years, while the whole system underneath him never changes, man. So I don't know. I got lots of things to say. I got to probably get things in order a little bit better, but I just wanted to throw something out there today. And I don't want to leave, I don't want to leave the podcast on a negative tip. I was at the gym today, and a lady was just talking my ear off. Just so happy to be around people. And be nice. So I would say, when you get out there into the world, be nice. And I don't mean don't be stupid nice. I just mean you don't take out your frustrations on that clerk or on anybody who's in the same position you're in, but they're still out there in some type of position of service. Put out a little bit of niceness into the universe. We could always use that. And, until I make the next podcast, man, stay safe.